Hello, bird brains, and today I'm just doing every boss from easiest to hardest from my experience. So if you have an opinion, like for let's say Hilda is harder than Cagney Carnation, I think that's like in a popular opinion if I've seen around other videos. Please know that this is my opinion, so you'll probably be like to see a lot of dumb stuff here. Like, no, I'm just gonna stop spoiling the video about it. Basically, that's what you probably came for. Duh. But anyway, I guess we can get started then. If there's not really anything to say, please keep in mind that this is my opinion. So if you say, oh, this boss is harder, I'm subscribing or something. So please know that this is just my opinion. Okay, so if you watch one of these videos, you'll probably hear them say this 1,000 times. Well, not literally, sarcastically. But anyway, let's get started. And number 19 is probably the root pack. So first, all the South Spider does, he's probably the easiest out of the three, I would say. All he does is, spit out. He spits out three dirt projectiles and then one parry worm at the end. That's the easiest way to rack up your three parries. But anyway, I think South Spider is probably the easiest of the root pack. And then there's Ollie Bulb. I think he's harder than South Spider, because I'm pretty sure back then they had names like Motato, Weepy, and Psycho Carrot. But I think Ollie Bulb is a lot harder than South Spider. And the reason why Ollie Bulb's easy, but compared to South Spider, he's much harder. And the reason I said to rack up your three parries from the potato phase is because it's way harder to parry here, because when you parry here, it feels odd to parry at first. Then it's basically pushing you up to the tiers where most of the tiers fall. They fall on you anyway, though. So it's just pushing you up where the other tiers were basically fall. So I recommend parrying in the first phase. Then there's Psycho Carrot / what's his name? Chauncey Chattanay, I think. Yeah. So Chauncey Chattanay is probably the hardest out of the three. So there's more stuff going on. So he hypnotizes some carrots, and I think what makes Chauncey much harder, there's more going on, obviously. But the thing is, Pea Shooter is obviously the first weapon you're probably getting the game. Duh. So if you had experience, you probably know that if you sit in the middle, like Pea Shooter sucks when it comes to locking for aiming and all that stuff. Basically, when it comes to aiming. So I think it's a lot harder with a Pea Shooter, cause this is the part where I used to struggle a bit, even though it's pretty easy now. But I recommend weapons like Spread, Chaser, or Roundabout, the first three weapons in Pork Rind Chop, to defeat this guy. But anyway, the root pack is probably the easiest boss, and at the end of the day, Chauncey Chattanay is as easy as Motato and Weepy. Not literally. But anyway, number 19 is the root pack, and now it's time to move on. And number 18 is probably Goopy Legrande. So if you've seen my one of my videos when I defeated him, I called him Goofy Legrande. But now I just refer to Goopy Legrande again, or Goopy Legrand. Either way, people just say Goopy Legrande, whatever. But the reason why I put him over the root pack is because sometimes I would say his jump, this is a bit embarrassing to say, but sometimes his jumps are less predictable. Like, especially in the second phase, sometimes when he can get really close to the wall, sometimes he can go to the wall and do jump to the wall and then jump back down, the place you probably end up when you dash. And sometimes he'll just jump on you. And I think that's a bit unfair. But I think the gravestone phase is actually in my easiest phases video. I put the gravestone phase at the easiest because it's simply the one with one attack. But don't be fooled. I think the gravestone is a lot harder than Goopy himself. I mean, that is Goopy. That's just a gravestone. But the gravestone is probably a lot harder. So, yeah. Goopy's over the root pack. And now at number 17, we have Hilda. I would say this is a very unpopular opinion because a lot of people say she's the hardest boss in IO1 simply because she's the first plane level. And that's basically the new mechanic. And the gist of IO1 is basically just being a tutorial for everything. So, but I put Hilda down here because simply I don't think she's entirely that hard. To me, really, things really mostly have a pattern. And the UFOs in the final phase even have a pattern too. I mean, the flying stars is a bit tricky, but it's not that bad. The phase ends pretty quickly, actually. But I would say she's higher than Goopy in a root pack. Duh. But I don't think Hildeberg is the hardest boss of IO1, to be honest. But one thing I will say, I dread Sagittarius. Sagittarius, of all the constellation forms, I think the easiest is probably, let's start. I would say that her constellation forms are not that bad, but I guess they're kind of tricky. I mean, Gemini is probably the easiest. Taurus can be unpredictable, but there's that cheat about using the lobber bombs, even though you don't have them until Inqua IO2. But that phase can be ended very quickly. But Sagittarius, on the other hand, where do I even start? He shoots his arrow directly at you, and with 3 stars homing in on you. Like I said, you don't have that bomb until Inqua IO2. So, Sagittarius, I think it's a pain because he's shooting his arrow at you while he's shooting the stars, while the Zeppelins are shooting at you. And the worst thing is, there's more Zeppelins that are coming at the same time. Whoa, the more you progress. I know I put this at number. I mean, like, the way I'm talking is like I should put this a lot higher. But honestly, at the end of the day, Hildeberg's basically just any Inqua 1 boss. I mean, like, people say she should be in Inqua IO2. I could say that. And some people just say that Inqua 2 should introduce the plane levels and not Hildeberg. But at one point, I think the Jimmy the Great is actually a horrible entrance for a first airplane fight. And then at number 17, but now I decided that I'm trying to make this video shorter, and that, like, once I get to Inqua IO2, it'll be like, let's say I got to number 13, then I'll continue from number 13. So I don't want to keep this video dragging any longer, so Cagney Carnation. Let's start to say that he doesn't even look like a carnation. I think he's harder than Hildeberg because like Goopy, I don't think his attacks aren't really that predictable. Like, I guess that first the toothy terrorist seeds can be really annoying. And what I really hate, this has the same problem as the onion. So when you parry something, you're going to be pushing up. Sometimes the toothy terror seeds land on you, then you get hit. annoying. And sometimes in the second phase, this is really much of a nitpick, but I hate dodging but this is my list, but I hate dodging when his boomerang goes under the screen, even though sometimes you can duck under it. But that's only when you're on the platforms. And then he's gonna bring out those acorn seeds. I don't know, but I think the hardest attack to dodge here is probably the acorn seeds, or when it gets really annoying when the flying toothy terror is up there. So in the last phase, I don't think it's pretty easy actually. I mean, it introduces platforming. It's not really that bad. It ends really quickly. And number 17 is Kag Incarnation. And then at number 15, we have Ribby and Croaks. And I think they're probably the hardest boss in Inkwell IO1. So let's start to say, on the list, Ribby and Croaks look like the last boss you'll do on IO1 when they're literally unlocked after defeating the root pack. Wow. And they're like just on the right of the root pack. So that's basically like the third boss you'll do. So for the first phase, Ribby just does some punches. It's not that hard to dodge, but I hate parrying because of the odd position it is and how fast they go. And then Croaks will shoot some fireflies. I would say the first phase is simple, but then again, Pea Shooter, it's horrible with blocking, aiming, because it just goes in one way. So yeah, that's bad. Then the second phase isn't bad, cause those rings that Ribby shoots and the fan from Croaks won't infect you that much. Yeah, I said infect. So and then Ribby is just throwing these ring things at you that go in an up and down pattern. Yeah, they have patterns. Don't let the wind push you to Ribby. And yeah, that phase is over kind of quickly. And now it's time for the reason, besides the fireflies, why this boss came in spot number 1 for this Inkwell IO1 list. Well, the highest spot for IO1. And it's a slot machine. This is probably the first instance where you would get RNG in the game. So that's a bad thing. So let's start. I would say blues are probably the easiest, but sometimes they can go in a really odd pattern, but they're probably the easiest to cook too. Frogs aren't that bad, but sometimes the frog's attack can seem dumb, to be honest. Sometimes like you can get hit for like a really dumb reason because they all go in this pattern, just go and then just jump on it. They get closer every time. Yeah. I think it's harder when you first get the frog's attack, and then when it goes faster, I think it's way easier. Tigers are probably the worst for me because, I mean, when it starts, it isn't that bad, but combine that with the boss, I got used to boss, but then those spikes on the platforms make it a lot harder, which makes it really annoying. And then when it gets faster, it's like you don't have enough time to plan what's your next move, even though you're probably just gonna be doing the same thing. And then there's another instance where you're gonna be crashing to the spikes. The only way for me to be this boss is if I just get blues and tigers repeatedly, or some miracle happens, and as soon as I get tigers, the boss gets defeated. Well, that's my list. But anyway, yeah, that's my video. Please like and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. And I'm gonna do Inkwell 2 next. So stay tuned, and goodbye, bird brains.